Hi again everyone. I promised in the last video that I shot literally just before this one, you'll notice from the exact same jumper and the lack of change in the hairstyle, that I was going to get some more videos up and done, and I thought, you know, while I've got everything out, I might as well get rolling on this. New year, new videos, and basically I just wanted to do a quick video to share a little tip that I can't take credit for, but something that I learned a few years back while studying Japanese to help facilitate my learning whilst, you know, back in the UK and not in Japan, and therefore not being exposed to Japanese day in, day out in my everyday life. You know, I can't watch Japanese television here. I can't go out and just hear it being spoken on the streets. But this is a tip that I actually picked up from Danny Choo. If any of you read his blog, I'm sure a lot of you out there probably do, are well aware of Danny Choo, fairly big name in sort of the, you know, people in the Japanese language learning world, and sort of has his own business, you know, sort of a very well-renowned Japanophile, and I'm a big fan of his photo blogs. I think he takes some fantastic photos of being out and about in Japan, and if for some reason you haven't ever checked out his stuff, I definitely recommend doing that. He does a lot of, he sells dolls and sort of Japanese based merchandise, which is of less interest to me, but you might find it interesting yourselves. But I think he does some really good photo work out in Japan, and I recommend you check that out for sure. But basically this is something I picked up from one of his posts years ago, and that was the recommendation of working on your computer in Japanese, by which I don't mean necessarily writing all your notes and your work and everything you do on the computer, writing in Japanese, although of course if you can do that, that's fantastic and that'll help you no end, but actually changing the language settings on your computer to Japanese, in order that every time you're using your computer, which if you're like me is probably quite a lot, you'll have to interact and deal with Japanese in everything that you do. So I've got a Mac, so I can only sort of show this from the Mac point of view. You know, if anyone's out there has a PC and does this, you know, make a video and show people how to do it, or, you know, show if you got links to a quick tutorial on how to do that, please put it in the comments below. But yeah, I just thought I'd quickly show you my Mac in use, with all the language settings changed, you know, how that helps, sort of the challenges that it throws up, and just how to do it. So yeah, take a look. So this is my desktop, and I'm sure all you How I Met Your Mother fans would appreciate that background there. But basically, as you can see up here in the corner, the headings, the options in the menu bar have become Japanese. There are little bits and pieces that don't change to Japanese for some reason. Finder stays Finder no matter which menu you look at it in. You've got App Store, Mac. I don't know whether if you're using a Japanese Mac those would still be in you know, in English, and not translated into katakana. I couldn't say to that, but by and large, when you change these language settings, pretty much everything becomes Japanese. Of course, it being technical terms, computer terms, a lot of this vocabulary, stuff that's come into existence over the last sort of few decades, a lot of it's just pretty much transliterated straight into katakana, which helps with comprehension. You know, no getting around that. File and folded up, it's all just straight into katakana, but you do have plenty of kanji and terms that you know you might not come across in other parts of your day-to-day life. You might, sort of things that you probably wouldn't just study as a matter of course whilst learning Japanese. So it is a good way to pick up terms and bits and pieces and add to your Japanese vocabulary, whilst also forcing yourself to sort of use and interact with Japanese on a daily basis. especially if you use your computer as much as I do. You know, back before I started working on my computer in Japanese, for example, I didn't know this term up here, which is in Japanese henshu, which, of course, if you can remember from your own menu bar, that means edit in English. So especially when I'm on iMovie putting together videos, if iMovie wants to pop up, which I don't think it does, apparently not. It doesn't at all. There we go. I'll pull it back up. So things like edit and little bits and pieces like that I use all the time when I'm putting videos together. You know, yomi komu there. Just little terms that you might not use very often in your day-to-day life, but are now pretty much firmly ingrained in my head because I see them day in, day out. I mean, I won't lie to you. A lot of the time, you're so used to what the terms are and the placement of buttons and menus in English that you will find yourself skipping over them. But there are bits and pieces and times where you'll just be forced to sit there and work your way through the Japanese, and it's just really useful for comprehension and just to sort of get into that routine of using Japanese at times when you don't have to, and sort of taking yourself out of that comfort zone, because that's the only way that you'll improve, is by forcing yourself to use and interact with the language as much as possible. So for those of you with a Mac who are wondering how to go about changing your language options, it's very easy. Pull down the Apple drop-down menu. You should say System Preferences or something along those lines. Of course, I've got it in Japanese anyway, so it's the second one on there to bring up all your system options. And then you've got this up here, and you know, in the Japanese you can see Gengo there, language. So you pull that up, and as you can see, I've got Japanese and English set up. And you simply, if you wanted to add a new language, you just click the plus button, and it gives you all the different options that you can have. You know, you could have in Portuguese if you want, in Turkish, you know, anything pretty much. Unangam Tunu, if anyone knows what that is. But really, you're looking for. I don't know if it still shows up in the list when I've already got it over here. It may well not show up. But you basically look for Japanese, Nihongo, add it to your list, and basically it will just ask you to restart the Mac, and when it starts back up again, everything will have changed to Japanese. So it's really as easy as that. I don't know if it's that simple on Windows. I remember back when I tried to get my old laptop to display in Japanese, you needed to install the IME, and I think I remember it being a bit of a hassle, but that was a couple of versions of Windows ago, so it may well be now much simpler to make your Windows computer display in Japanese. But yeah, that's just one little way that I like to try and keep myself on top of Japanese, and using it on a day-to-day basis, even though I'm no longer in Japan.